Hello? Hello? Yeah, it's over. Oh, God. Ah, terrible. Hello, welcome, boy. Welcome, welcome. Yep, yeah. You know what they say, don't cry because it happened, smile because it's over. Oh boy. Yeah, so I don't know how long we're gonna be live today. Just for clarity. I just figured it would be a good opportunity to try to discuss, like, right now, about, discuss about what did we learn, class? What did we learn? What did we learn from this game? And maybe just, again, like, discuss it a little bit, you know, go over some of the points, really, like, solidify it somewhere. Probably gonna be some document writing. I mean, we have, like, 7 chapters to summarize, so, like, if anything, like, each of these chapter summaries have taken, like, an hour, or, like, half an hour or something, so... To be completely honest with you, this entire stream could just be doing that, but I was probably gonna yap, and then maybe we'll get to the thing. Like, I don't know. To not have an explicit plan for this stream, I just figured it'd be a good opportunity to just, like, say the thoughts, have them be there, and then we can go from there, right? Yeah, how are we all doing today? Also, the reason why I paused for a second was because my recommended video right now is Takanashi Kiara is live doing something. I don't know, it's like a driving game, I guess. But the thing is that I don't know if I have autoplay turned on or not right now, and when you're in a playlist, I don't think it has the autoplay button. But I mean, it's going to be really funny once we get through 8 songs, and then if you just randomly hear Kiara, that'd be hilarious. That's crazy. Alright. Okay. Hello, we are here. For anyone who does not understand what we are doing, VOD watchers or otherwise, we are doing an analysis of Dustborn. I thought it was important to take a look at the game for what it is, instead of just writing it off as woke. I mean, I think a lot of us can understand what that term means and how this game applies to that term. But I wanted to see if there was more to talk about there in regard to if there were any failings of design, if there was anything, like, worth salvaging, like maybe some highlights that could be said about the game, like credit where credit's due, and then critique where critique is due. Because I felt like no one was doing that, so I wanted to do that. This is our document. We have written a bunch of stuff, including, you know, I wanted to format it like it was a GDD, which hasn't been super successful as far as actually having all the relevant chapters, but I was never probably going to do that in the first place. It was more just to mock it, I suppose. Like, there are character summaries here. I don't actually want to do the character summaries. There's too many characters. Like, honestly, this kind of paperwork takes a long time, right? Which is why, like, if a studio were to make a GDD for all of these characters, or like an art bible, like a narrative bible, stuff like that, like, this shit takes a really long time. I have no intention of doing that, but I think the most useful thing is going to be the summary of the chapters as I can organize my design notes, and that's basically what the important thing we've been doing. So, critiques most certainly do. Yeah, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot to talk about, and you know, I was hamming it up. Always got to ham it up. Always got to turn yourself up to 11 in hyperbole. But I was definitely getting extremely frustrated at the end, just with how poor the narrative was. Like, okay, we're good. We're good. Everything's good. It's just, so guys, spoilers for Dustborn. Whoa. Yeah, it's spoilers for Dustborn, guys. It was empathy the entire time. The least, like the absolute least earned moment in the entirety of gaming. Oh, I forgot I put this here. This is a Dova Syndrome BGM. Yeah, don't accidentally make a more detailed design document than the devs. No, I'm sure they've... I mean, it'd be really funny if I said I'm sure they've made a detailed design document and then, like, they just haven't at all. That would really make me chuckle quite a bit, but... yeah. I actually hadn't watched the last bit of the second to last stream when you streamed the finale. So I hoped that would shed some light on why Axiom was what it was, but no, it really was just a random Fustro Da on a random albino kid. Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing, right? Is that I kind of wanted to chart it out because listen. As I was saying, like, I don't even know where I'd put this. Like, does this just go under game design? I don't know. Yeah. I love how, like, the last note we made was, like, or the last note before I just gave up on the format of swapping back and forth was, like, the combat animation is bad. Like, it's just so bad. Like, it's like you're throwing a wet pool noodle at them. It's so funny to me. Okay. Because I really just want to understand, like, I guess maybe this would go under narrative design. Is this... this is narrative design. Yeah, so why... there's a... yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Design documents are for internal use, and they are supposed to be utilitarian in nature. So it's fine. We're able to find the stuff. There's no problems here. But yeah, okay, so there were three people. There were three factions. Two agonists, and the librarians. You know what's very interesting about this is I actually didn't really understand that the Puritans even existed until they raided the mall. Like, I didn't know that they were actually a faction because we were dealing with Justice a lot. So, Justice is like... they're like the cops, right? Like, they're... it's unclear to me whether Justice is like... like... are they... are they like the government law enforcement? Or are they just like... are they just like law enforcement that took over the divided states of America? Like, they are government, right? Because that was never clear to me. Initially, when they talked about the Weave, I thought they were talking about the Puritans. Yeah, same. I was like, what do they mean? What is the Weave? I'm assuming this is, like government law enforcement stand in. Fascists. Is that how you spell that? So... It's like, I'm trying to think of like how else they were characterized, or if I want to make this its own section. I mean, these are just notes to get it out of my head. Justice is a government that can experiment on children on black sites, but also the general police that don't know anything. Okay, they're both. Okay, got it. All right. They're the government / law enforcement. They're fascists. Yeah, okay. So Justice is the government of the DSA. Puritans is the deep state / government of Pacifica, I think. Okay. Got it. Okay. We're gonna... Okay, we're good. Actually, maybe we're not. I think we still haven't done a few of them yet. Okay, anyways. Yeah, welcome, Ken. So, okay. I should probably put... Okay, so these guys are the government stand-in. And they are... Yeah, so they've been characterized like they're fascists. Which, like, I just want to be very clear around around the qualifier. Define fascism. I just want to be very, very clear about what the word actually means. Often, fascism, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. Okay, so the claim here is that justice is, I guess, opposed to anomals. The idea is that justice is suppressing anomals, which I think is accurate in how they've portrayed it, right? It's basically like if they find out you're an anomal, they kill you, right? So this is, like, accurate. It's just, so, like, it's accurate. It's just, like, the way that they say it is as if, like... I don't know how else to say this. When people in the party describe justice as fascists, it's like they're reading a Twitter tweet, as opposed to like being like they are unjust, or like they literally killed my family. They're like, not the damn fascists again. Like, god damn it. Like, you know what I mean? I guess I can take this out of quotations, because that's literally what they are. So, we never met their dictatorial leader, I guess. Like, they never elaborated on who, like, the dictator is. Or was it, was it John Kennedy? The thing is, we never see him. It's like he's not dead, but we never see him. Which is so funny. Echoes is a very literal, forcible suppression of people's thoughts. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, again, I might have difficulty understanding these things because I'm stupid, right? We see a poster of him in the underground high school. Yeah, we see him around, but we never, like, see him making the authoritarian, like speeches that say go kill people, basically. Oh yeah, you're right, Snake. There was a news broadcast. They watched a news broadcast. So, in context to the game, the context, fascists. I guess, like, I can still put it in quotes. Maybe I can these are point form and during a live stream. Like, I'm not super concerned about the quality of the writing. But yeah, this is basically like in context to the game. Justice is suppressing their opposition, the anomals. This isn't even like correct because they make anomals in labs, right? Anomals by kill on site, like in quotes, because they don't actually do that, right? It's mostly for the crew. I don't know. They have like a kill on site order for anomals, basically. Also represented as non-anomal good, anomal bad. Shut the fuck up, Google Docs. Anomal bad. Didn't JFK make the justice because his wife died? I have no idea, man. That went completely over my head. Yeah, so I guess this would, like, broadly, you know, this is accurate? Do we think that this is accurate? What they are doing is accurate? Individuals within justice have been characterized as sometimes good people, but just scared of anomals. Jesus, anomals. So we ran into multiple justice members, not even just the guy at the end, but like a lot of the officers on the way there in the bar, they were just kind of doing their thing. When we were stopped at a couple checkpoints, they were basically like, hey, watch out for those anomals. It's clear that the depiction of anomals to justice is explicitly negative, and rumors are spread about how bad anomals Yes, that's correct. So we'll get to that point. It's good that you brought that up. How's the documenting going? I mean, this is just, I'm trying to get all the stuff out of my head. Because, like, the thing is, as we're exploring here with justice, it's like, I can see how they're trying to make a clear characterization of who these people are, I guess, or like, they're saying some stuff that makes sense, basically, right? It's like, when you have your police force on a kill-on-sight order, it's like, yeah, that's bad, right? I don't think anyone is arguing that, right? But just so that it's like, put that, because the game makes it really hard for you to take them seriously when, like, the way they describe justice is like, ah, yes, the fascists, and then the officer, like, shakes your hand on your tour bus, like, wow, your performance was really good. Get on your way now. Watch out for those anomals. Like, it's just strange, right? Like, when your point is screaming at them that they're fascists, and then they treated you with, like, completely humane respect, like, what are you claiming here, right? Like, you are not showing why they are bad people. You're explaining it, and we kind of understand why, but you're not, like, actually showing why they are bad people. Please show why they are bad people. Like, so, I do find it funny how one of the likely target demographics for this game, the aforementioned Bash the Fash crowd, would likely be pushed away because the game isn't claiming ACAB in the slightest. Sorry, I don't know if I understand. What does that mean? Is that like... Yeah, you can clarify, but I just don't know what that means. So, yeah. Deeper rooted justice. Or like secretive ops justice was researching anomals and the production of anomals to harness their power to strengthen their regime. Which I think we need to figure out what anomals are as well. Like, what is the point? Like, what are they trying to say? Which, again, I'm trying to just get a better and clear understanding of what, like, they're doing. Because... yeah, which I started with the factions first. So there's, Puritans. Shadow government. Trying to... shadow government, or like opposing force conspiracy stuff. I don't really know how else to explain it. They have super alien tech. Anomals seem to be a literal byproduct of Justice's misinformation broadcast. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand. Right? Like, what is that? What do those events mean? Which we'll get to it. Like, of all the times that I am legitimately asking for help, it's that, like, this game is so confusing that I just, like, don't know if I understand clearly, like, what they're trying to say with all of these events. Right? It tries to humanize justice officers, show they're not all bad, which, as far as I know, doesn't sit too well with the type of people who want to fight fascisms in a game who would claim the thing. Again, I don't know what that means, Poi. Like, literally, what does... Do I need to look it up? Like... Oop. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Okay, got it. Honestly surprised how cops were handled due to all the marketing. Thought this game would have a heavier anti-cop message, like don't get it wrong. They still have it, but I can see demographic gets mad. At least the one good cop thing. Yeah, no, I can see what they wanted to do with that by basically suggesting, like, okay, you're really anxious or scared of this opposing force, but realistically the officers themselves aren't the problem. And there are some bad officers, but you can tell that, like, in the case of the bad officer, like, they were affected by, like, rumors, basically, right? Like, they were led to believe something based on rumors. And then the one officer, who is actually kind of a good person at the end, basically was like, oh, so, like, the rumors were all false, and also Justice is trying to secretly create anomalies. So we're gonna let you go. Which, again, could have been okay in a vacuum. It's just that the execution was so bad, right? Like, there was no build-up to that, basically, right? And there was no, like, character development to that thing. It was just kind of a reveal, and then the character, as someone said, like, turned heel in, like, one cutscene, and then it's like, what is happening? Like, so yeah. They thought they would pander more into that crowd. I'm happy they didn't, personally. Yeah, sure. So the Puritans are like conspiracy shadow government people, right? Did I get that correct? Like, these people want to They want to control the public by suppressing like suppressing their thoughts through the proto-language. Which we need to get into that stuff, but yeah. So they want to control the public by suppressing thoughts through the proto-language, which we saw was done through justice. Which again, so justice in their experimentation made a broadcast that explosively disseminated echoes information. This initially created anomals, which again, like I don't know. I don't even know what they're trying to say here. Like, what do they mean? Is this like the creation of the internet or something? Like the creation of social media? And their claim is that the government did that? I don't know. They have the disintegration child and weird cyborg dude, so I assume. Yeah, exactly. So, it's not even clear to me, like, so maybe it can be inferred that because justice wants to exterminate normals, but create anomals as weapons, that they want to only have anomals as weaponized beings. For controlling the public? Populace? People? I don't know. I'll give that as a personal game positive, not objective, but glad their view of police wasn't as hateful as I've seen many indie comics. Well, yeah, I mean, your personal view and reaction to those kinds of topics is like just your opinion, man, right? So, you know, I don't know if they're ever really going to be making. I guess I don't really know what I'm saying by that, but yeah, I'm just not gonna whatever. Granted, fairly standard fascist government. They want the monopoly on violence. Yeah, I know, I understand. But I was trying to normalize the fact that it's like, yeah, I don't think anyone would ever claim that that was objective. I don't think anyone should ever claim that their opinion on something is objective. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's justice. Proto-language. Public by suppressing their thoughts through the proto-language. They have weird super tech. We stole a codex from them for the proto-language. Oh, I looked up the other endings, by the way. And the other possible endings are you use Nova Scotia as a stepping stone, then go to Europe, or you go back into the DSA and then like fight as a rebellion fighter, basically. So, I mean, the ending's not, the ending code is not super like like I don't. How did you not get the stepping stone ending? I have no idea. Probably because I treated people with any degree of empathy. I don't know. Yeah, so we stole a codex from them for the proto-language. Based in Pacifica? What else do we know about them? It's like, what are they... Like, I don't know if I really understand what... Like, aside from we want to control the public by suppressing their thoughts through proto-language, they believe that there is good and bad language, and that the bad language must be suppressed. I know I'm basically reiterating the first point there, but, like, they were pretty specific about that. I don't know what else they were, like... What? Like, aside from doing research into the proto-language and trying to, like, I guess, control the populace, like, what? Do we know anything about these guys? Like, nothing? They just have weird space tech and, like, fighting robots and shit? Like... Yeah, no, that's a good thing to put. I'm gonna have another section for anomals. More or less the crew. Okay, we believe in axiom. Only objective truths. Nothing is subjective. I mean, basically verbatim what they said in the game. So the librarians also kind of... They're basically like, hidden faction of anomals, or people trying to help anomals hide or leave DSA. Didn't really understand how they were much different than the librarians. Both seem to desire control. All of them desire control. Right? And I think one of the main things that this game fails to portray, which in my opinion is a disservice to the themes that they're trying to talk about. Right? I can't explicitly say that like I haven't formulated an objective point about like why this is bad, basically, but like they're claiming, because it's kind of like a hypocrisy argument, but hypocrisy also doesn't necessarily mean someone's wrong, or to claim that an argument is explicitly wrong due to hypocrisy is actually a logical fallacy. But there is certainly a hypocrisy in, like, justice. They're saying justice and Puritans are bad because they desire control over the proto-language and what it can do. The thing is, the librarians are doing the same thing, but we're to assume that they're only going to do it for good things. And it's like, well, what good things are they going to do? Right? And I have a feeling that the reason why the librarians did not have a clear goal in mind was to avoid judgment, right? So people who aren't thinking are just going to assume that the librarians, like, think about it this way. If the good, in air quotes, is considered vague, then any audience member can fill in what they think the good in this case is, right? Which maybe it's just the kind of person I am, but like the objective good things as described by Axiom. Oh wait, yeah. Like maybe it's just the kind of person I am, but like I really detest groupthink, a lot. Like in the sense that people will tell you what is good, And then if you're ingrained in that group, like, they will tell you what is good, right? And then I guess you could say you agree with what good is. But to me, where any group, it does not matter what group, any, like, section of beliefs or whatever, right? They have some understanding of the world. And then that understanding comes out in, like, the beliefs that they espouse, right? But at the end of the day, those are just, like, logic that they made up and they believe for some reason. And then you can follow that logic, you can see the reasons that they have, you can understand the reasons that they have, but at the end of the day, who's to say whether it's good or bad? Like, who's to say that what they're doing is good or bad? Right? Which makes me very suspicious about what the librarians are doing. Because the researcher, this was where it kind of, like, tipped me off a little bit, was that the researcher you're talking to, Jacob, basically says, they mention something about control, basically. Like, they say, we can shape reality with this, right? And they're talking about, like, the power of the proto-language. So it's like, it makes me suspicious. It's like, well, what are you going to do with that power, right? Like, do we agree here, right, on how we're going to use this power? So, like, certainly it's pretty obvious that putting it in the hands of, like, these political extremes as far as, like, justice and Puritans are concerned, probably bad, right? I don't think anyone's really, like, complaining about that. But the fact that the librarians are also praising the power of the thing and how they want to utilize it to uproot, like, justice or the Puritans, it's like, well, what's to say that once you do that, you're not going to be the same, right? You basically have a mind control machine in the, like, in the form of packs, and we're just supposed to believe you're going to let people live their life? Like, I don't know if I believe that. Right? What happens when Pax helps you decipher the proto-language and then you just mind control her into, like being a weapon of mass destruction, effectively? Right? Like, that makes no sense. Like, I'm not going to believe you. Right? Okay. As I said last stream, the only thing we really hear is freeing people from the broadcast. Yeah. I agree with your last statement. You can interpret what the librarian faction is doing because of the lack of context. Yeah. But I think regardless of what you put in there, that it's not right. It doesn't matter. Right? Like, I'm like an Age of Darkness kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, I think the correct answer to Armored Core 6 was to burn all of the coral. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Right? Like, human greed will always rise and want more. Which means that they can't be trusted with the coral. So, I don't know. Right? Like, maybe that characterizes how much of a doomer I am. But, like, I just don't think having something as powerful as the proto-language should exist at all. Right? Realistically. Or it should not be in the hands of, like, any of these people. Since Puritans already had a copy, but were hoarding it, maybe they were trying to convey they make that info publicly available. I think what the Puritan lady said at the end was they wanted to be the monopoly on it. Librarians are good because they help anomals, which our characters are. I don't know what the game wants you to think they're... I don't know that the game wants you to think they're actually good. So I guess I'll push back on that, Snake, because the predominant ending at 15% is Librarian. The other two endings represent like 3% of achievements or less, which is to say that if you play the dominant message of the game, you will end up with the Librarian ending, right? So the game is designed in such a way that if you make relatively empathic choices, which I think most people with a relatively normal moral compass would, you'll end up as a librarian, right? And I even think that I took some morally gray choices, right? Like, this is the same thing with when we played, it's like Refined Self. One of the main, it's like a personality game. You take actions in the game and it gives you like a personality quiz, test, whatever, or it outputs a personality. The predominant personality that people got in that was like the empathic personality, the one that's like, you should feel something for NPCs, like you feel grief towards this like imaginary, like you feel bad for rats that are dying in this video game, right? But the thing is that like the game is designed in such a way that you are very like you are presented with scenarios for you to like have a lot of empathy for what's there, and also that the people who are likely to play the game are going to do that. So I think they're pushing you in that direction, right? I was not sure how to decline the offer of the librarians at the end, you know what I mean? Because I basically questioned the last librarian person up to a T and be like, what are you saying? Like, I don't know if I'm going to help you guys. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to move on. And then it just, like, shoved me into the librarian ending. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I conflated two things, but, like, they're related. So even if what is said is correct, they do a terrible job explaining it, but with a name like librarians and general themes, I think they're trying to convey, I think their intent is librarians. Yeah, I guess the other thing too is that like there's justice and Puritans, and then like librarians. I think the other thing that I would say is that the only faction that's not explicitly being spoken badly about is the librarians. So that's worth noting. I definitely shouldn't be in the hands of PAX. The proto language, absolutely. 100%. That's a harder question since in Armored Core you have to take what could be life away. Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I don't really know. I felt like the Evangelion ending in Armored Core was like probably not it, and then also allowing the corporations to just go about what they were doing is probably also not great. So I felt like the best solution was like, no one should have this. Y'all are fucking crazy. Like, this is insane. Poor explanation of their own story then? Maybe. I think you're probably right, but I also think a reasonable person would hear Jacob talk about the proto language and then not want to give it to any faction. Perhaps. I guess the interesting thing, Snake, is that I feel like I came to that conclusion because I'm extremely critical of groupthink. Like, if I'm working with someone, like, I'm very, very critical of whether or not, like, basically what their thoughts are, I guess. I don't know. As soon as someone is like, no, I explicitly just agree with you, like, there's like an alarm in the back of my head. It's not like a large alarm or whatever, but what I'm saying is that, like, it kind of triggers that thought of, like, I need to double check myself because people are just agreeing with me. So, you know. Honestly, I would be more likely to support them too if librarians were just trying to give people the information that the Puritans had. All this talk about control goes against Pax's speech at the end. Yeah, so this is more of an opinion thing, right? And again, this is this is where, like, ideologically, I don't think it's necessary for me to argue with the game developers on what their belief structure is inherently, right? Right. The legs that I have to stand on in this argument, as far as whether Dustborn is a good game, are like the solid legs, and I still want to like write my opinion, obviously. But my solid legs are that the game simply does not communicate very well and the mechanics are bad. Right? Like, that's very easy for me to claim, but I wanted to have a better understanding of what they're trying to do in the story as a whole before moving forward. So, their idea here, which I pointed out is hypocritical in nature, is that, well, we just need to give the proto-language to the good people and then it'll be good. Right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Right? There's no guarantee that giving the proto-language to the, quote, good people will not result in disaster again. Right? Especially with the context that they are trying to, like, make some kind of, like, they're making experiments as well. They also said they want to cure people of Vox, which, again, like, we don't necessarily know what all of that means yet. I wanted to record that stuff somehow to parse it out, but like, it's not clear that like they're going to be good people as well. So the way that I would say, if the meta narrative is that there's misinformation, the way to deal with misinformation is to put it in the hands of the good people so that they can cure people of their misinformation poisoning, basically. Like, if Vox is a manifestation of like bad beliefs or negative thoughts or propaganda, then the way to cure it is to put it in the hands of the librarians. I guess that's what they're trying to get at when they say cure, but the only real thing in my mind that can combat any degree of like misinformation or like, again, media propaganda, etc., whatever, like, the only way that you can combat against like being injustice, for example, or being indoctrinated into like Puritans, for example, whatever, is your own critical thinking, right? Like, the only way that you can not be entrapped in this stuff, and even then it's like, well, you're fighting a battle against 1 million or more, right, is like to apply your own thought and say like, hey, these people are trying to get me to believe something, like, I'm gonna think about that, right? And the step beyond that, for me personally, is that like, well, I don't need to think about whether I even believe or don't believe the thing. I just need to understand why they're coming to their conclusions. I don't have to agree with any of their premises, right? I don't have to agree to any of their underlying logic, any of their framing, any of their whatever. I just need to understand it, and then I can move on with my life. Right? Like, understanding something has no bearing on, like, whether it has changed my beliefs structure at all. Right? But the only way that you can do that is to be aware of the fact that the proto-language exists. So you could then make the claim that, well, the librarians... I think if the librarians were instead trying to claim that we can make people aware of the proto-language in its entirety, like the misinformation, the whatever, we can make people aware of it just so that they can make their own choice. Like, that's where I would personally be more on board with, because that aligns with my beliefs, right? But again, this isn't really a conversation about whether I think Dustborn's beliefs are correct or incorrect, right? It's like, what are they trying to say, right? I can point out the hypocrisy, but I don't necessarily... Well, I guess they think the solution is that you should give it to the good people. And it's like, okay, well, that's stupid. I'm gonna judge it. But it's not like, okay, man. I guess it's... The unfortunate part is that it's the equivalent to, like a child saying, I'm gonna drink this milk through a chopstick. And it's like, well, that doesn't work. And it's like, no, but I believe that I can drink this milk through a chopstick. And it's like, okay, I mean... Like, I mean, I guess. What is your grounds for understanding that, like, you can drink milk through that chopstick? Where, like, my only grounds is that, like, I guess it's been positive to me, which is also not, like, it's not really founded on anything, right? My actual understanding, I mentioned this very early on, and I still have not asked the person for the citation, just for the record, but it's basically like, the probability of convincing somebody out of, like, believing propaganda is very, very low. Like, there's basically nothing that works. Once someone has made up their mind about conspiracy or otherwise, the research basically says that, like, you, like, just cannot talk someone out of it. It is impossible, basically. So I don't think any of these claims make sense. And I guess it's extrapolated from the fact that I think the only way that someone is going to change their mind, if they have the capability, like, the only way that they will change their mind is if they have the latent capability to do so, right? So the person who is actually experiencing the information needs to be able to, in their own mind, come to the conclusion that they are going to move away from this thing, right? And unless people can do that, like, they're screwed. Like, there's nothing to be done. What I'm trying to say is, if they wanted to build to Pax's speech and ending, since most stories start from end work to beginning, they needed to change things up. As it stands, I'm confused a lot of what they're even trying to say. For sure. I agree, Rance, and I don't know why that happened. You know, I wasn't on their team. I can assume that maybe there was, like decision by committee often runs into problems like this, where there isn't really a visionary who takes over where the direction of the story should go. That can often cause problems. Yeah, or, like, there was no accountability for the writing. I don't know. There's all kinds of problems could have happened. You can't. It just takes an insane amount of suction to move the milk through the wood fibers of the chopstick. You're so right, Poi. Yeah. And again, I made that example simply because, like, I don't believe that the solution that they are proposing is even remotely correct, is what I'm saying. It's actually hypocritical. Their opinion on the brainwashing could be seen as elitist. Some people think in better ways than others. Can you elaborate on that? I mean, I think it's individualistic, right? Or, yeah. And I guess what I'm saying as well, like, I'm going to try elaborating, but you can also elaborate. What I'm saying is, this is what has worked in my personal life, right? I found it important to be skeptical when people are trying to rope me into a belief structure. Oftentimes because I can find that there is some kind of problem with the belief structure itself. That's not to say that there isn't value, and also I wish I could be someone who just, like, takes the value out of something and then it doesn't matter anymore, but evidently that has not been my life. Like, man, if I could just, like, because think about it this way, like, if I could just look at this game and say, like, ah, yes, of course, it is great to be a librarian, and then move on with my life, like, I think I'd be a lot happier, right? If we can just assume the best and then say that, like, well, the librarians have the best of intentions, they're trying to cure anomals, that's a good thing, everyone else in this situation is bad, so therefore we need to, like, whatever, and then you just, like, take it at that value and then move on with your life. I mean, that'd be great. But evidently I'm incapable of doing that. Some people would be brainwashed, but others who think critically would not. So someone could argue that one who thinks critically are superior to the other group. Maybe I'm interpreting what you said wrong. I think you're ascribing a value judgment to what I'm saying. I'm not saying someone who is in quotes brainwashed. Like, I also didn't say brainwashed, right? I'm saying that there's a relationship between people's belief structures and what they believe about the world, right? Because that's how they navigate the world. I'm not saying that's good or bad, right? I'm saying that, like, once you have some type of belief structure, and I'm saying, when I say belief structure, I just mean, like, literally the CBT definition of, like, you have a core belief. So let's say at the personal level, you believe you're a loser, right? Like, that must have some kind of value to you, right? So you take that belief and then you use it in your everyday for particular reasons, right? Is what I'm saying. And then what I'm also suggesting is that the only way that you are going to be able to change that core belief about yourself, once again, from the field of CBT, the only way you're going to be able to change a core belief about yourself is to recognize that the core belief is there and then reframe it, right? Like, that is what I've done. CBT. This is what CBT is, right? Is that, like, you identify a core belief, you see it happening in your life when that core belief is active. You see it happening. Like, you see when your mind is calling yourself a loser, and then you go, like, why am I calling myself a loser in this scenario? Why do I need this to happen? And then you reframe it. So, like, that is my understanding of, like, the way that is going to get you out of any kind of core belief is that metacognition loop of going, like, this is what is happening. I am acknowledging what is happening. I'm going to change what is happening, what that means, and then I'm going to, like, go through that cycle, right? I'm not saying it's superior or not. I'm saying that that is, like, the process that I have seen works, right? And, like, there are people, once again, who, like, regardless of what kind of core belief you put in here, like, people have their reasons. And I'm saying that, like, the people who have their reasons or believe things for a reason, right? That, like, that can be fine in a lot of cases. Like, there's a lot of cases. It's like, you could live your whole life thinking you're a loser. And, like, it's actually fine, probably. Right? Like, who cares? Like, someone would say that, like, having a negative self-image is inherently bad, right? But it's more like, well, if you can't do much more than that, then who am I to say, like, yeah, you person who believes you're a loser, well, you are a loser because you believe you're a loser. And then it's like you get on this piles on piles on piles and piles of, like, a negative self-image where, like, you don't then also need to judge the fact that you consider yourself a loser, right? Like, it can stop there. It's like, well, you already have the core belief, like, let's not make it worse, right? Oh, you talked about that study with propaganda, but I see what you're talking about with the belief structure instead. Okay, yeah. So, just to clarify, I was personally told of a study, and I was extrapolating or inferring from my life that I think the way that you would change a belief structure, it's not like critical thinking, it's that something needs to change in the individual, right? Like, you can't, like, argue, reason, facts, logic, whatever. Like, it's actually not even critical thinking, Snake. Like, it's that something needs to change in the person. Like, they need to realize it. And I guess I've also found a parallel with teaching, right? Which is that, like, I can explain a concept over and over and over and over and over again to someone in the exact same way, but that's not going to help that person. The thing that's actually going to help them is if I try to change the information a little bit, if I try to, like demonstrate it in a different way, right? If I try to, like, and the way that I can help understand best the way that this person is going to understand it is bridging it through empathy, right? So if I understand that person over there, and then I go like, this is how this person sees things, or this is my understanding of how this person sees things, I'm going to reiterate the point that I was saying through their lens of understanding, and then hopefully they'll understand it, right? So what I'm saying is all of that points to, welcome by the way, Lord, I'm just rambling, but my point is that the core problem here, right? Like the core problem, whether it's like brainwashing through propaganda, trying to learn something, trying to understand something, whatever, is like all that change happens internally in the person. How you trigger that change has to do with how it's communicated, I suppose. But I'm cynical. Personally, I am cynical because it has not been my experience that people do this frequently. Right? Which is why I'm sorry about the confusion, but I understand what you mean now. No problem. I just wanted to be careful because, like, I think I also have a tendency to, like, I mean, I don't know what I'm even saying here. It's like, yeah, I'm human and I make value judgments. It's like, what, like, what the fuck am I even saying? Like, what? Yes, you caught me. Sometimes I make value judgments because I have morals. Who would have guessed? Like, I'm not shitposting you, Stick. I'm shitposting myself. But sometimes I do that in a way that I am not being intentional, and then I, like, it's better that I catch myself. So when you said it, I was like, I want to just make sure I am not doing that, because I did not believe I was making a value judgment. But for me, in my personal experience and understanding, like, this stuff goes back to core beliefs, right? And core beliefs are valuable because they help you navigate life, but at the same time, it means that you're very stuck in them, right? And that parallel goes to propaganda and misinformation, as shown by this study where people basically don't change their mind. There's basically, like, no effective way to make people change their mind around, like specifically, like, propaganda or misinformation or conspiracy, that it's, like, basically impossible. Which, you know, I'm not a very smart individual, or I don't claim to be a very intelligent person, because, like, I cannot parse scientific literature to save my life. But my understanding was that, like, a psych prof basically told me about this study, and that was the case. Like, I don't know. I didn't read the paper myself. I'm gonna memory hole this game so hard, bro. Fair. Now, if this study ends up being false and propaganda, you gotta make sure not to change your mind and still believe it! That's so funny. That's so real. You're absolutely right, Poi. If this study is false, then I need to just, clearly what I need to do is stay adamant in my way so that I can prove the point of the propaganda. Okay, so we were talking about librarians. Now, we're just trying to talk about, like, the librarians themselves, what they believe. So, infection of anomals are people trying to help anomals hide or leave DSA. I think that's accurate of who these people are. They have a hidden network called the Weave, which is a number of secret locations which they operate out of and host operatives called librarians, who are sometimes anomals and sometimes not. Because the mechanic was not an anomal, and the person driving us at the end of the game was not an anomal. The informant who we met at the robot facility was not a normal either. Okay. They were researching the Proto language with PAX at the start of the game through a researcher named Jacob. What else? They want to continue researching it with the Puritan's Codex to look for a cure for Vox, as there are associated problems with having Vox powers. Also, acknowledge the power of the proto-language. Excuse me. Honestly, really confused librarians are kept so vague. Like, the only one we get information about is Jacob, and I'm sorry, but man just speaks in circles trying to be deep. We get so little information about the group from his talks. Yeah, I mean, Jacob says a lot of long words and also impregnated us, so, you know. I mean, Jacob's cooler than I am, you know what I mean? He got some plap going, and I guess he stays winning. I think it's just the fault of the rush ending, probably. But here's the thing too, is that, like, my theory is that they were I say again because I'm reiterating, but I think possibly that the theory is librarians are kept vague because they're supposed to vaguely be the good guys who are helping you. Right, and they are also basically the faction who is accepting of anomalies, so... Right, like, they're the only non-discriminatory group towards you, like... So, I don't... Like, again, I don't really have an issue with the fact that they are befriending anomalies, trying to help them through their, like, hidden network called the Weave and stuff. My only question is, like, what are they planning on doing with the proto-language? Because, like, it did not necessarily sound like they were just going to do it for good, right? Because they were talking about power of shaping reality and shit. And it's like, if you were just concerned about curing people of their Vox powers, I don't know if you would be talking about, like, shaping reality and power and shit. Like, you know. I think Jacob's talks can be simplified to perception is reality, and the proto-language can change perception on a global scale. Yes. I think so. So basically, there's claims about... So let's start making notes about different things, right? I was going to say anomals in general, but, like... So, voxes. What are voxes? Like, let's just define terms. So, voxes are superpowers made through echoes. The initial incident of the broadcast made anomals with voxes caused by the broadcast's mass sending out echoes. This was my understanding. Is that the tower in the middle of no man's land basically went like, and then, like, a bunch of people got hit by the stand arrow, right? And one of the beliefs and not want to support them? Yeah, I mean, that's fair point. Is this accurate? This is basically what they said, right? Even if the ending was a little rushed, the talks of Jacob could definitely been used to flesh out said group, especially since I think that was probably the intent. I think so. I think it was used as a way to, you know, elaborate on, like, the proto-language and the research experiments that, like, PAX was a part of and stuff. Okay. Our superpowers made through echoes. The initial incident of the broadcast made anomalies with Vox, caused by the broadcast mass sending out echoes. Okay, so I wanted to put for echoes before I forget. So echoes are lingering propaganda or misinformation, either latent in an area or stuck in someone's head. Negative thoughts. He started popping up 30 years prior to the events of the game when the broadcast started. Okay. During 30 years the events of the game. I mean, that at least encompasses the timeline. So echoes are like lingering propaganda or misinformation, either latent in an area or stuck in someone's head. They're kind of like negative thoughts. Or can cause like conspiracy level belief structures. The meme. A device for recording echoes. Once enough echoes have been recorded, it can be used to transmute into a Vox ability. That is, say that record enough misinformation can be used to be created into a it's like I'm trying to understand this because I think the idea they said it more explicitly in some places where they were like, well, you can turn echoes into memes, right? It doesn't make sense to use literal disinformation as a positive power. Yeah. I think it's odd, but I think echoes are a neutral power that just is used to make magic misinformation, but can also be used to make other Vox magic. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to use literal disinformation as positive powers. Yeah, so this is where I find it's weird. Right? So I postured this idea that echoes are not just misinformation, right? Echoes can also just be lingering information in general. Like these are people, like I'm saying, these are people's belief structures. They are like a knowledge that is passed forward. And then once you have enough information or lingering information that's given to you, it generates your thoughts. Right? Like it generates your intention or your like your proto-language, whatever. Right? And like there were some more thoughts that I wanted to make here, but I'm gonna write it out as it is, and then I'm gonna go back to it because I had a different thought, right? Which is that echoes are not like literally propaganda. They are literally memes, by the way. Yeah, like from the biologic standpoint, right? Yeah, translate into a... So to say that recording enough misinformation can be translated into a Vox ability negative for most of the game. So, alright. Now, this might be contingent on X's outlook and her inability to make positive change with her, or not positive change, like positive affect. Okay. So it's like, what is the proto language and what are voxes, right? So it's like, if echoes are just memes, or like passed down information or beliefs, which then translate into Vox. This is my thought. Vox, instead of superpower, can be seen as intention. Which means proto-language can be seen as the building blocks for human intention. Does this make sense? Like, this is what I think the game was actually trying to say. So it's like, the beliefs that are passed down to you affect you as a person. The Vox that gets manifested in you is your intention, which means that when Pax talks about empathy, right? It's like integrating all of the information she learned, right? The way that she was manifesting it was that, like, okay, I have all of this information, and like the information that I'm recording is like this information or whatever. So what she knows how to do is that she wants to cancel somebody. Like, that represents as her intention, right? Like, she wants an outcome. That does kind of sound like empathy. Trying to convey your intention through empathy is the most effective. Or often is, at least. So, because we can make a list of what the Voxes are, right? So, like for Gnome, Vox is Gaslight. So if Gnome was raised in a turbulent household, which is why they mention needing to go back and, like, meet the witch, the evil witch. Therefore, the Vox he inherited, or action intention, is to gaslight people to get... Oh, Jesus. To get their way. Right? So, like, Pax had her Vox powers. Vox powers have to do with bullying people. Trigger cancel. Oh, yeah, again. So, Axe's upbringing was in a cult, right? Was in a cult where was taught that robots are bad and guns are bad and outsiders are bad. So, the Vox, or intentionality that manifests in Pax, is to manipulate people through negative consequences, or in general negative Emotional manipulation. Right, like this makes sense. So I'm not sure for Eli and O. Who else was a thing? I mean, this is gonna start falling apart real fast. But so Psy, Vox power is to turn to stone. Protect self when anxiety. Yeah. So Psy experiences anxiety, and what she knows how to do is to turn self to stone to turn herself to stone to protect herself. Right. So once again, if we use the neutral framing for echoes, it's like these are the experiences that happen to you which determine the types of things that you do, right? So it's like you have echoes lingering in you, Sai. So those echoes cause you to act in certain ways, which manifest as like a defense mechanism. Yeah, Eli needed to take care of the others at the school, which I guess came with telling stories to entertain them. Yeah, it's weird with the Justice Facility, because I don't know if I fully understand that. Right? Because the Justice Facility is basically like, it's underground, and they're trying to explore what Voxes are, so... Forcing them to... Sorry, who is this for? Pax? Forcing them to do what she wants, she thinks is correct for her, which makes sense since her words she didn't want to listen. My bad, I was a minute behind, yeah. This makes sense. Yeah, Eli Vox is to manifest reality through storytelling. So what does this mean, though? If the idea is that there are echoes... So Eli's echo was that he was raised in a facility. So how did that influence his powers manifesting? You have no idea? That's okay. The thing is, it's weird because Eli had this entire thing about, like, the asphalt god and stuff, but, like, that happened after he escaped. So, but he was able to manifest stuff before that. Like, maybe the inciting incident was, he was given the doll by O. The facility doesn't seem relevant to his personality, strangely, besides him wanting to find O. Oh yeah, there's Diggy as well. True. So let's just finish, I guess, Eli first. Just because that's where my brain's at. I actually, if I'm remembering this correctly, O gave Eli a doll and basically said, this is something that will give you strength. So Eli was told a story about, like, finding strength, basically. So that then affected him and gave him the Vox of, like, I can find strength in storytelling, so now I can literally manifest reality through storytelling. What are his character traits? Like, I don't know. Eli was given a doll from O and was told this doll will give you strength. Was a demon thing. So Eli was influenced by that event. Make an echo as to manifest the Vox storytelling as power. Like, it's like a belief, right? Okay, so Ziggy. Vox is to go super speed. Entropy. Science. Minecraft me. Okay, so anyways, Ziggy can go really fast. She hid in the back of the commune in that little playhouse. Seemed like she wanted to run away and escape, which is exactly the two things she can do. Yeah, exactly. So, Ziggy got bullied a lot by Pax. Question mark. I remember Ziggy kind of describing that. I don't know if that's like a rewriting of the events in her head. But also, wanted to disengage from the cult and often hid in the secret base. The events that Ziggy went through taught her to hide and run away, manifesting her Vox. Yeah. But, like, here's the thing, right? Can we see how this, like, this, makes some degree of sense and could have been interesting? Right? It's just a story about how the things that happen to an individual affect how they engage with reality, and then that manifests as superpowers. I am okay with this, right? The problem is the execution, the terrible narrative, like all this other garbage, the failure to explain this, right? Like, they didn't really talk about this paradigm. Where, like, when I look at it, it feels like this is implied, but they don't really get a lot into it, right? Like, they don't go out of their way to, like, explain the relationship between these things. Like, you really have to read between the lines. I'm also inferring, like, I don't know if this is even correct, but it seems to make some sense. Events that happen to people which significantly change their view on life. It's like, this is kind of what they are, I think. So, the next one is Ophelia. There was the other person before that, I think. The short guy. They don't explore it, so it just feels hollow. Yeah, and this is my problem, right? Is that, once again, I will say, I find it very interesting to understand where people come from, like, where they are coming from, like, what were their experiences, and why do they understand things the way they do, right? It's like, when you understand things, or, like, when you attempt to understand things, you can make inferences, which, again, like, you could say, oh, well, you're psychoanalyzing people. It's like, I don't really see it that way. I think I'm trying to empathize with them. But it's like, you see the things that have happened to these people, and you go like, oh, I can totally see why Gnome would believe that gaslighting people is okay. Right? It's like, if Gnome was gaslighted their entire life, right, then it's like, you know, I guess the only thing that really doesn't make a lot of sense in this model is like, what does the broadcast have to do with any of this shit, right? So you could say that there's like a chain of influence, right? Like echoes are just a chain of influence, but then why did we need the broadcast to be a thing? And why is the government trying to control this stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Soul, since he is 50, would have been 20 when the broadcast started, so he likely became an anomal while he was in the military, so the power is understandable even if specific background isn't given. Yeah, because Soul's power is poetry heals people. Yeah. Soul. The thing is, like, if Soul is in the military, maybe he found comfort in poetry, or generally words. Either through, this is fan fiction, but like either through talking with others in service, or maybe it's something he discovered. I story it's inspired from was a vet that found comfort in reading poetry. Yeah, I don't know. Fan fiction. Yeah. Huge air quotes fan. Using Eli as an example again, I think the ideas of the characters are good, but since there's terrible execution, I end up knowing very little of his character and not caring for him at all. This kind of goes for a lot of the characters in the game. Yeah, I agree. There's just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the problem is that we see the results of these things, right? Like, we're expected to just say, like, oh, well, their Vox is this. We don't really understand how it happened. But, like, it's affecting them now. So, I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel like when you have an implied traumatic backstory of a character, right? Or it's like, it's told, not shown. I think you really have a huge onus on, like, the storytelling to demonstrate that with how the character acts. Which I don't know if that's super clear. To people. So Ophelia's Vox is to trauma dump on people. Make them feel bad. So where would she have learned this, right? Who's Ophelia again? She's like the emo girl who said when we got to the no exploration zone, she was like, we're in hell. Like, maybe this is just due to and the negative that created her way of coping was to make other people was to trauma dump on other people. So again, the echoes are, this is what happened to me. The vox is, how do my experiences manifest into how I interact with other people? So the way she interacts with other people is she trauma dumps on them. There is an implication here that venting or trauma dumping on people doesn't actually get rid of her pain. Ophelia got as little characterization as girl, and that's impressive. Yeah. I mean, this was my understanding. The interesting thing about Ophelia was that I understand this principle. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. I mean, I don't really know how else to say it, but it's like, venting doesn't solve problems. Right? So if you are like cripplingly depressed, and then you're like, you talk to someone and you're like, oh, I'm super depressed, that's crazy. And then you make them share some of that emotional burden, right? They kind of feel bad about it, right? But this could also be seen as like, as lashing out at people due to underlying resentment or trauma from the Nova incident, or literally making the Justice guards fall over dead. Like, they literally died. I don't really know what to say. I don't know, maybe they didn't die, I don't know. They just felt immense pain and, like, fell over and, like, I don't know. Can only assume that they died. She's also socially awkward, so maybe making people literally feel her pain is related. Yeah, the thing that I'm trying to outline, or see if the logic fits, right, is that, like, despite the game's constant, like, framing that echoes are just bad, it's like the relationship is that echoes get recorded, echoes can be used to make vox. Vox is usually some kind of manifestation of the echoes. Like, that's the kind of logic I'm following, right? So it's like, if we then frame echoes as just events that have happened to people which lead to behavior, then it's like, echoes are beliefs or events which lead to a manifestation of a behavior or a vox. Which I think can work for most of these people. But then, like, the question is, like, what the hell is this stuff about the broadcast? Like, it makes, like, what is that? Oh yeah, girl. Sorry, there's girl. Girl. What does girl even do? She shocks people? To touch her, or force blast people away. I think she did a push, right? I mean, we don't, like, imply that girl... I feel like girl is like, a terribly outlined character. Terribly characterized character, but let's write some fan fiction. Huge, in quotes, fan fiction. Girl is an experiment test subject. Oh yeah, she controls... Oh! Yes, you're right. She controls echoes. Shocked. Excellence. So, if echoes are events or latent negative thoughts, beliefs, Then what does it mean that she controls echoes? I literally have no idea, man. Like, what the fuck is this supposed to mean? Yeah. That does not follow. Rather than echoes being thoughts or events, so they could make thoughts or events manifest magic. I'm gonna quickly use the bathroom and come back. Alright, I'm back. Well, we're not talking about Theo necessarily, Rants, because they don't have a Vox, so it doesn't really matter. The characters already had personalities, beliefs, and the echoes made the powers based on those pre-existing ideas. I don't know. I see. Okay. Yeah, I actually don't know. I guess what you're saying, Snake, is that like these people already have beliefs. Like, for example, Pax believed that bullying or cheating other people is completely fair game to get what she wants. So when she's afflicted by echoes or like misinformation, it triggers. But the thing is, it's like, the thing I don't like about the misinformation or whatever, the echoes, is that like the echoes are tied to the proto-language, right? Are they not? Because the meme effectively records the echoes to be used as a codex for the proto-language. But the thing is, like, because echoes aren't the proto-language. They're like floating negative intentions or whatever. Or beliefs. Right? Like believing that there's, what was it? The one doctor was like, there's no woke mind virus. So I guess the belief in that case is that there's a woke mind virus. But the woke mind virus was that can be used as part of a codex for the proto-language. So that stuff is... The echoes are created of the proto-language. Have I talked enough in circles about this? I don't know. Like... saying that the proto-language can be seen as the building blocks for human intention. Because when they speak the proto-language, thank you for the headband. When they speak the proto-language in particular ways, right, it manifests magical powers. Gonna be honest, my understanding of the game kind of falls apart once the proto-language gets involved. I don't think they're inherently negative. The weird squids are the negative part, right? That's why you had to get the squid off the crystal tree. Well, what I'm saying is that I think the echoes are inherently negative because all of the echoes that we ever find are always talking about, like, negative things. Right? They're always, like, whispers of negative, like, conspiracy, etc., misinformation. Right? Looks like you're finally at the fun part of the game. I don't know if this is the fun part of the game. Trying to decipher the ramblings of a madman is not exactly what I wanted to do. Squids were just the echoes, hence I assumed they were bad. They're also from the broadcast, so those would be negative. Right, so the echoes, and this is what I'm saying, is that the echoes that spawned from the broadcast, I think, are bad. Right? But maybe there are neutral ones, otherwise I don't think Girl's ability makes sense. What am I saying? I have a degree. There's no woke mind virus. Yeah, that shit was hilarious. Okay, so it's like... Okay. Negative echoes were made through the broadcast, right? Those negative echoes still affect people in modern day. I.e., doctor talking about woke mind virus. Echoes are manifestation of the proto-language as they can be converted from echo into codex knowledge of proto-language. I also have no clue what the deal with the Tree of Tongues was. Yeah, I don't know. Is this accurate so far? Echoes are manifestations of the proto-language because they record the echoes into codex, which then can be used for stuff involving the proto-language. Justice made the squids. Damn, Justice is base. They're like me and also into tentacle. I mean, hey, hear me out. All I'm saying is that someone had to sculpt and rig that tentacle that had, like, the flap that opened and, like, Like, I'm just saying, man, like, what's going on with that thing, dude? Like, that's crazy, man. Dude, that thing looked straight out of an anime too. Okay. It likes metal too, based. Justice's way of triggering Vox powers was to mass broadcast negative echoes, which created Vox powers in people. Is that Voxes first spoke through the proto language. I don't think Justice wanted to make the Vox powers of the broadcast seem like an accident. Okay, sure. So, all right, let's do it this way then. So, Justice made the broadcast or tried to weaponize echoes to control people. The idea is that if people believe the echoes through the broadcast, then they're easier to control. Again, the doctor and the woke mind virus makes that person like more dysfunctional, basically. Yeah, that makes sense, Snake. Yeah, so again, they kind of knew what the echoes were, where they had like the tree or the anchor or the root or whatever. And then they tried to make the broadcast, and they're like, haha, we're gonna make people believe all this shit with the echoes, and then that's gonna make them easier to control. Thank you for the head pat. The thing that I'm confused about is how did this make Voxes? Right? So there were echoes. And then, like, what was the conceit that some people had enough? Person worried about the woke mind virus won't stand up against the regime because that's not woke. So echoes. The thing is, echoes also manifested Voxes in people. Is that because they're inherently proto-language? Again, this shit, man, I don't know. My brain just hurts, dude. Like, I don't understand. As you're saying, Poi, I think it falls apart a lot when you get to the proto-language, right? Because it's like you can't really go backwards, right? So it makes sense that echoes affect people, right? It makes sense that echoes are thoughts that are basically put in people's heads, or their beliefs, their core structures. It makes sense that people who are heavily affected by echoes, for example, Gnome, Pax, people who were there when the broadcast happened, people who are affected by these echoes or have their own personal echoes, then manifest into things, which are voxes. But I don't know how this fits into that. It's like, it's the language of gods. Okay, sometimes magic just happens because the writers wanted it to. A good writer would probably think why, but I'm not sure this game had any. Well, Snake, the thing that I'm trying to figure out is what are they trying to say? Right? Because, like, yeah, it really is a, like, what are they trying to say thing, right? By correlating all of these things together, or conflating all of these things together, like, what are they trying to say? I think that's just a mutation type thing. Some people just have some aptitude, or it's a scale. Some people need more echoes than others to awaken. Yeah, because, like, I think a lot of the echoes that we experienced or saw were negative. Again, like, let's just put girl off to the side for a second. But, because, like, whenever there were echoes in people's head, it was always schizo shit. And then I guess, but not every person develops Vox powers. So, it's like, how did Pax get her Vox powers? We know, well, maybe let's think about the people who explicitly got Vox powers. So, Eli and Ophelia were put into the Whispers Room. And they were like, here are echoes, here, we're gonna give you schizo conspiracy bullshit, and we're gonna keep putting it into your head until a Vox awakens. Right? And then that happened enough that then something manifested. But those manifestations were through their own experiences, right? Or usually had something to do with their own experiences, or how they already interacted with life. So, like, is the inciting incident for echoes to affect you and make a Vox just trauma? Like, if you're traumatized enough, that makes a Vox. So is Vox just mental illness? Like, is all Vox just mental illness? Like, is Gnome a narcissist? And Pax is, like, BPD? Sai is anxious? I don't know what Eli is. Ziggy is anxious. Ophelia is depressed. Soul has PTSD. I don't know, man. But then, like, but the Vox itself is not actually necessarily always a mental illness, right? Like, taking out or trauma dumping on people is more of a behavior rather than, like, an affliction. But the thing is, they also talk about, oh, we can cure Voxes. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I really think Voxes are just behaviors that people do based on their experiences. And then whether that behavior is a superpower or not is, like, why. Yeah, Theo equates O's problem to his mentally ill sister. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, Theo also talked about how his sister also went Nova. Like, she had a mental breakdown, basically. And that mental breakdown caused her to lose her family. Right? And then basically, there's people going like, oh, well, when anomals go Nova, they basically have an outburst of whatever their Vox power is. So for Pax, if Pax went Nova, she would just, like, trigger the people around her probably into, like, free-running themselves. Like, you know? But then, like, then why does souls like manifest as healing people through poetry? Right, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Very early in the playthrough, I remember likening Vox to autism, but that's more because of the way they were talking about it. So it being partially a mental illness allegory makes some sense. Yeah, it's like... Oh. You may be looking for a consistent answer from inconsistent writers. This is fair. So maybe what the better way to look at this is... Okay. Maybe the way that I'm looking at this is wrong, as you're saying, Snake. Like, I'm looking for some degree of consistency from people who are inconsistent. Maybe what we can do is instead read these things at, like, an allegory level, right? Which if we are to give some amount of breathing room, like, I think this is accurate, like, what I'm saying about these characters. Like, I think echoes are just beliefs or things. Like, they don't necessarily need to be negative, right? They are just things that happen to you. It's just that... So what they're trying to say with the proto-language is that, like, the echoes don't need to be bad, right? The echoes just are all bad right now, and then they lead to voxes, because they're effectively, like, trauma or events or things that happen to you, which create echoes in your head, which then manifest your powers in some kind of way. Like, that's my best understanding. But then they talked about stuff like, okay, well, recording echoes and making memes means that you can shape reality by, like, through virality. That's what the librarian's claim was. So it's like, if we take enough echoes, like, if we take enough beliefs and then make those beliefs into things that are spreadable, like memes, then you can affect reality. Like, you can affect people's perception, right? So the person who controls the... I mean, that's consistent, though, right? If we remove, like, the vagueness of what the proto-language actually is, right? This makes sense, or what they're trying to say makes sense. What they're claiming is that if you control what belief structure or what core beliefs go into a human being, then that will control those human beings. So the librarians are suggesting that if they can control the echoes that go into people's heads, but for the better, then they can change people's outlook, right? They are saying what I was saying, which was that the way to combat misinformation is to attack the core belief or change what the core belief is. So you need to remove the negative echo from their head, and then other core beliefs can be put there. Oh yeah, sorry, Poi, yes. She has ADHD, 100%. I akined it more to anxiety, but yeah, 100%. Like, there's definitely tie-ins to mental illness, for sure. Like, Ophelia being depressed. But not for everyone, because, like, Soul doesn't explicitly have PTSD. Right? Or, like, you would assume that the veteran character would represent some degree of, like, PTSD, but that does not appear to be the case. Maybe it does, right? Maybe the echoes in his head talking about, like, Like, the bad justices into fascism. Oh, he did say he has PTSD? Oh, okay. Okay, well then, like, let's put this down. So, okay, got it. Okay. All right, guys, we got it. So Soul has PTSD. Likes plants. Copes with plants. As said as much. Ophelia is depressed. Probably. Ziggy has ADHD. Zippy girl. What does Eli have? He always has a brave face on. So I don't know what that means. He's painfully optimistic. Sai acts as like BPD. Gnome is which are often touted as like two halves of the same coin. Like NPD, BPD. Right? Like, it's stupid. The way that they show this is it's stupid, but like, you know, I don't really know. Also, just for the record, like, this is what I thought at the time when Girl was introduced. Like, I think she's just autistic. Or like non-verbal autistic. But the thing is, like, that doesn't like say much about her powers, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of like, well, if she's non-verbal, the only way she can communicate is through intention. Autism is the strongest one, then? Shit. Louis from Left 4 Dead 4, where he's happy from the traumatized. Too traumatized to be sad. Well, the thing is, like, Eli... Maybe the point is that Eli is a foil to the entire thing. Right? Like, he's the most grounded, or one of the most grounded individuals. Yeah, it's like, Girl only feels comfortable talking to Ophelia, who's kind of, like, depressed. So maybe it's that whole, like... Ophelia is, like, overly empathic due to being sad all the time. So she can, in some way, communicate with Girl. Which, the other thing was that Ophelia mentioned that... that Girl doesn't actually talk to her, but she kind of gets it. Right? Which, again, is probably, like, a stand-in for autism. Right? Where it's like, this person is particularly empathic. She seems to be on the same wavelength as this person. This person is nonverbal, but she kind of gets it in a weird way. So it's probably related. But it doesn't make sense to me how this is related to controlling echoes. Like, that doesn't... It's just, like, a weird... Like, her experiences are that she doesn't really... Like, she's not elaborated on. She's basically just a justice experiment. But the reason also why I thought about this was that she shocked Pax upon trying to approach, right? Which I think some people, like, can be prickly, right? There's a prickliness to them sometimes, is my understanding. I'm God, fear my autistic power. I don't know, man. Okay. Well, it's clear that there's, like, a theming of mental illness. To me, at least. A little bit. But I think the whole thing with the echoes and the vox and whatever is just like... They record the echoes to get a better understanding of how the echoes manifest voxes or how the echoes are related to the proto-language. But the reality is that echoes are just like memes or like passed down stuff, right? Like passed down information, beliefs, core belief structures, etc. And sometimes that can manifest into like a vox that has to do with mental illness, depending on what those core beliefs are. So their claim is that the initial broadcast, which gave people negative echoes, gave them core beliefs which inflicted mental illness. The media made mental illness, everybody. All right, did you hear that? The core beliefs that you got from media gave you mental illness. It's fucking incredible, dude. That's incredible. That's insane. Wait, guys, is what they're saying that, is what they're saying, because they said that they wanted to make this game after, like, Donald Trump's first run for office. That's when they said they started thinking about this game. Are they claiming that all of the broadcast that they heard from, like, all of the news that they heard about Donald Trump's run just, like, gave them mental illness? Like, it inflicted psychic damage on them? That's fucking hilarious. Guys, it inflicted the dev team with psychic damage. Let's fucking go. That's just so funny, dude. Oh, man. Just to be extra clear, I do not have an opinion on politics. I just find this funny. Like, that's just funny to me. Right? It'd be very woke if all the character or crew were neurotypical. I know we're all on the same page here, but probably best to refer to it as neurodivergencies instead of mental illness. It is a bit more respectful. Sure. I mean, like, that's fine. I think I mostly agree. I use them interchangeably. I guess the idea for me, if it is not affecting you in a negative way, I guess this is my delineation, like literally my exact delineation, is that if it is not affecting you actively negatively, I think it could be seen more as a neurodivergency. Whereas if it's like actively negatively affecting you, I see that more closer to like mental illness, right? So I think I have a melancholic, temperament. I'm pretty doomer. I'm sad about things oftentimes, which at the worst of times has been, like pretty bad, right? So I'd say at those times it was mental illness, but at this times it's just like, well, I just am more doomer than other people. I don't care. If you're gonna lump in autism with the rest of them, sure. No, I agree with you. And it's like, it was not my intention to be rude about it, for sure. Just for clarity's sake, and it's good that you brought it up. But yeah, so like, different types of neurodivergency, which like, if we're using my personal definition for what the difference between those things are, I would say like, you know, PAX is more on the scale of mental illness. Right, of literally like, I need to control people by emotionally manipulating them, by like making them feel bad, right? Like that's just like, that's pretty obvious. But But again, I'm not trying to justify, I'm just pointing it out. So I think this is relatively comprehensive for understanding kind of what they were trying to say. Are there more things we need to talk about here? Like, were there more story points that are important for this? Like the understanding of the definitions of things? I want to say it's ham-fisted with caricatures of the factions. Oh yeah, well, I mean, did you define the proto-language? I think that's kind of important. I guess we didn't really, right? So this is, I mean, we left a note about it, but it's like building blocks or echoes. Again, with interpretation that echoes are just events or chains of influence or core beliefs or memes, etc., then the proto-language is the essence of those things. Or yeah. I mean, this is my best understanding of this. I don't really know what else to say, right? When spoken in particular ways, creates box outs. Which is again possibly behavior mention. What's the difference between a skunk and Donald Trump's hair? It was just too much for them. Yeah, it made so much mental damage. It was psychic damage. Are you going to publish this? This actual paper, no. I am 7,000 words into scripting a YouTube video, and I am only on chapter 1. Which, to be clear about this, I don't know if this project is ever going to come to fruition, because frankly, it's like a lot of work. And I'm too much of a doomer, because despite the fact that I think that this was fun, and I think that, guys, come on. If I interpret this game in, like, the best light possible, if we strip away all of the terrible caricatures, if we strip away all of the bullshit, all of the execution, all of the narrative, and we, as the game says, if all we're trying to look at is what are they trying to promote? What is their echo? It's that, like, the events that happen to you affect you, which can manifest in narcissism, or it can manifest in healing. Do I have a problem with that message? No. Who the fuck would have a problem with that message? Well, bad things can happen to you, and then that affects your outlook on life? Like, what are we saying here? This is basic shit. So the thing that I think is important is, like, understanding. You have to understand where people are coming from in order to have a better perspective. Can I disagree with all of the execution, narrative, characters, everything else? Every other possible thing surrounding this, am I going to disagree with it? Yes. 100%. This has been, like, the most terribly executed game I think I've ever played, actually, in my entire life. Is the heart of their message wrong? I can't necessarily say yes or no. That being said, my intention with this was to go chapter by chapter and talk about my design complaints. Which would take an extremely long amount of time. So I, like, literally my plan was to be like, this game is called woke. I think there's more things to talk about. Look at this chapter. It's really annoying how they got all of these things wrong, and it almost seems like they don't understand basic game design. Hey, if we go to the next chapter, like, it almost seems like they can't execute basic game design. Hey, look, we're at the village. Did you hear me when I said they can't execute basic game design? Because I'm gonna keep saying it. And then just go through literally every single chapter and talk about like how I feel like the game did not execute correctly. Like did not execute within the realm of objective game design. That's what I wanted to do. And then after that, I wanted to talk about my personal opinion, i.e. these notes, like this stuff. It's like, this is my understanding of what they were trying to do. And then I could basically go like, hey, is this inherently a problem? Probably not. Did they execute it terribly? Yes. And it's like it's the whole idea where, like, I think it's okay to express your ideas through art. Like, I think that's really, really important for human culture, right? So I think it's bad when there is an art piece and basically no one actually critiques it, right? Like, no one goes out of their way to say, like, hey, these are ideas. I don't think these ideas are inherently bad. I understand the ideas you're trying to put forward, but your execution was bad. Right? Like, are you going to have people who ideologically disagree with you? Of course you will. I would actually go even further to say that the woke, in quote, aesthetic that this game has, or general topics that it approaches and stuff, are simply not popular. Like, they just aren't. Like, people, like, when someone sits down to play a video game, I genuinely do not believe that there is any majority audience at all who is looking for this. Right? Does that mean I think it shouldn't exist? No. This game is not written for me. I do not actually care about this game at all. But I think that if there is an artist who is trying to express something, that the way to make that better for the people who that this could have helped, like, think about it. If there is someone who is struggling with something, and then they see Pax's journey, if Pax's journey was good, if there was a whole character arc of Pax realizing it's not okay to manipulate people, like, this is not good, I don't want to do this, I want to actually empathically understand people, and there was a full character arc there, this could have been extremely meaningful to somebody. But it's not, because it's bad. Nothing else. It's just poor game design. It's poor narrative, it's poorly written, the characters are bad. Like, that's the problem. But the thing is, like, people don't want to parse, like, the cognitive dissonance in their head. They're just like, this is woke, and then they, like, shove it off to the side. Which I don't blame those people. I really don't. Right? Like, who the fuck has time to do this? The only reason I have time to do this is because I'm literally unemployed. Like, I don't work, guys. Like, if I wasn't doing this for this game, then I'd be doing it for the game I'm working on because I would be employed. Like, no one has time for this. Does that make sense? So, it was a little roundabout, and I wasn't, like, trying to get angry or anything. But what I'm saying is that, like, I would love for this to be, like, a 3-hour-long deep dive where I literally go through every single chapter and say, like, this is what's wrong with this, I see this as this problem, I explain this problem, it's here too, this is happening, that's happening, whatever. I really want to do that, and I am trying to. I just don't know if it's gonna happen. But I'm trying. At the very least. My biggest issue with the game by far is how many things are just introduced then never mentioned again. When it seems like a deeper dive on the topic could really flesh out the themes. Yeah, exactly. So, once again, like, Theo's faith, right? Like, how could we have fixed Theo's character right there? If Pax could be empathic in that scenario, and then we could learn a little bit more about their opinions on dealing with faith and stuff like that. And then, after we go past that, we can challenge that character's beliefs, right? So let's say Theo is, again, like, he's trying to reignite his faith and belief in whatever, and then you put that character into scenarios that challenge that core belief, right? So I don't know. I enjoyed the comic art. It seems like the artists were having fun with it. Sure, I could believe that. It's a reference to X-Men, like the final comic book page references the Phoenix. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense to people. Is that, like, you know, I would really like to, you know, go as in-depth as I possibly can to just say, like, hey, you know, we can, like, this is why people dislike this game, right? Outside of the people who wrote it off, right? Like, there's serious problems here. Like, the combat is abysmal. Like, it's so bad, right? And the writing's all over the place. Even as someone who's trying to engage with it, like, if I'm friendly with a character, then why in the next scene do they, like, turn around and treat me like shit? When I feel like I've gone through an entire character arc with these people, but then it doesn't track. Like, why is Ziggy telling me about shit that I never talked to her about? Or at least was never on screen. It's like we're just supposed to assume that they completely divulged all of this information to this individual, and also that this has happened before, and, like, we brought it up again despite, like, I don't know. It's just weird. Okay. Yeah, and they do a lot of, there's, like, so much show, don't tell. Or tell, don't show. They do a lot of tell, don't show, and then they do a lot of show, don't do. They do a lot of show, don't do when they force you to do something. It's weird. You gave the game a fair and charitable shot and it vomited in your lap. I'd personally be done with it after this. Sure. The thing that frustrates me is, on paper, this game really should resonate with me, as I like the concepts. Struggle with a lot of what characters are going through, but due to execution, it's just bad. Yeah. Or, like, you hate it. Yeah. Like, where's the scene about... So, Sai has an anxious breakdown, but that's because we yell at her, right? Where's the scene where Sai just has a breakdown and we help her? Like, just straight up, right? Like, that could be in chapter 4 or 5, where, like, Sai is, like, having a panic attack, and then we support someone who's having a panic attack, and then you can see, like, her skin slowly stop turning to stone. Like, she's all stoned up. She's, like, literally a gargoyle, and you're like, it's gonna be okay. Like, we need to move now, but, like, we got you. We're here to support you, and we're, like, no Anomo left behind. Like, that shit, right? And then, like, slowly, like, Sai slowly stops being all, like, slowly stops being all stoned up, and she's like, okay, like, we gotta move. Like, we gotta move, I believe you, we gotta move. Right? Like, that would be a very powerful scene. They just, like, literally didn't do that. Like, like, their storytelling is so ass backwards that it's ridiculous. Like, whose story are you telling? What is happening? Yeah, the bathroom scene where you needed to vox her. It's, like, so inappropriate. Like, it's so ridiculous. And I understand that that's early in Pax's journey, but, like, she makes no recourse. And also, there's no option. Like, God, I can't tell you how insulting it is that there's no option for other, like, things, right? Get over it. Like, get over what? I'm confused. Like, get over the terrible execution of the game? Confused. Like... Oh! Yeah. You're so right, boy. I was so confused for a second. Yeah. It's the thing that you yell outside. No, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like... Or have that scene then, and then have a very similar scene later on where you're able to console her properly to actually show the change Pax supposedly went through. Exactly. The crazy thing is that we're not even narrative designers. But we know that this is how stories are told, right? Like we understand this shit, right? We know that, like, there's a comparison of characters in one point in time to another point in time. And it's very frequent that, like, showing their changed actions is very powerful, right? Because it gives people hope that they can do the same, right? So if there's someone who's experiencing a life that is very much like Pax's life, and then you show in a fictional world that it's okay to, like, step down from your ego and be like, I know that I'm stressed as an individual. I'm Pax, I'm stressed, I fought my entire life to just control people, but I know that my friend needs help right now. And I fucked this up the first time. But this time, I'm gonna try real hard. Which, the thing that I thought was very interesting, Poi, is that they kind of did have that scenario in the house. But even that was shit. Because she's like, I tried using my Vox for the good. And it's like, just fucking talk to the person. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what's going on? What the fuck? The final boss of Dustborn is literally the truth, by the way. Like, the physical truth. I don't know if I understand, Lazul. Can you elaborate? It's like, I'm just curious. Absolutely the worst thing to say to someone dealing with anxiety, and the fact that Pax never apologized actually triggered me. Will people get offended by physical truths? That's why? Yeah, so what you're saying is that, like, the final boss of this game is, like, not hearing what you want to hear? I don't know. I'm just on a pedestal ranting now, so I don't know, man. It's like a representation of factual truth. Oh, like Axiom? Oh, like you're saying the, like, Puritans? See, the thing that I thought was interesting about this, like, if we go down to our notes, right? The thing about it, right, is that, like, Justice and Puritans were both seen as bad people, right? Like, because the thing about the Puritans, right, is that, like, they're essentially claiming that there's no room for subjectivity, right? I think it's less about what is the factual truth of the matter, and it's more about that, like, the Puritans inherently believe moral decisions have objective truths. I think that's more what this is getting at. And then I think with Justice, it's less about objective truth and more about controlling people. It's kind of what they were about. Which, again, we're not supposed to like these people, right? Like, I don't... Again, like, this game fails to execute so much nuance, you know what I mean? Right? Because we even had a person in our chat before, his name was Magic, and he talked about axioms, right? And basically what they're saying here in this game is that they're like, oh, axioms are just bad because there's objective good and bad language, and we must control the good and bad language. And it's like, as I was saying to Magic, right, in our discussion, I don't know how many people were here for that, but when they started talking about axioms and truths and stuff, it's like, it's not like axioms are inherently bad, right? It's not like having a compass for pointing your life in the right direction is a bad thing, right? But the mediating factor you need with an axiom is your own like your own sense of like metacognition. So when you're like, this is what I believe in, I strongly believe in that, this is my axiom, right? But then you go, okay, well, just because that is an axiom does not mean I need to like die on that hill, right? So whenever I talk about self-determination theory, like, I think it's a really, really good framing for understanding game design problems. Does that mean at the end of the day, I think that it's 100% accuracy all of the time? Like, this is the objective truth of the matter. This is the only way you can analyze games. This is the only valuable way to analyze games. It's like, no, absolutely not, right? It's just, it is a framework that I've seen is valuable. And then, like, I don't, like, it doesn't need to be dogmatic, right? So there are mediating factors to axioms, and the fact that this game doesn't even explore the nuance of that is ridiculous. Cringe-ass axiom, baby! Right? So, I don't know. Yeah, the weird axiom baby, sorry, reminds me of law versus chaos in SMT. Absolute order and peace versus freedom and its dangers. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think the problem with the fact that they made these caricatures of these ideas is that, like, it doesn't explore the nuance. It just says, hey, look, they're fascists. It's like, great, what did we learn? Fascism is bad? Who the fuck was, like, who's saying this? Who is arguing this? I don't know, maybe... I don't want to incite anger by any fascists. But I think the moral compass generally does not think highly of this as a concept. Oh, I oughta. Oh man. Also, he kind of just rambled on and then got Fusordot into the ocean. Rance, we talked about, so it was mostly in fever dreams and stuff. It's like, we are the axiom, we are the good and the bad, and the objective truth and the whatever. Like, this is what the thing is. Yeah, this is a discussion about the game after a full playthrough. Yeah, exactly, Starve. Like, should I have put a spoiler alert in the title? Like, no, I don't give a shit. I don't think anyone cares about this game being spoiled. And if you do, get out of here. We have already finished our playthrough. Yeah. With the aesthetic, it would have made a good team-based hack and slash Left 4 Dead, but punk, and they threw that away. I want to make a comment that they're incapable of combat design, so the money was wasted anyways. Oh man. It is the Star Child from Mass Effect 3. I did not play Mass Effect 3. What is the Star Child? Is it the person at the end of the game who's like, pick one of these 3 colors? Nice. That's poggers. Okay. I think that's gonna be it for today. I think that's it. I think it's over. For now. How was that? I remember starting this series being like, I don't know if this is gonna be interesting. I don't know if people are gonna care to hear my rambling schizo shit. But here we are. Here we are. End of 40 hours of Dustborn. Just so much shit. Remember when we did market research? We talked about how maybe there'd be, like, these people are like these things. It's been fun. I like your rambling. I don't like Dustborn. That's fair. Oh, man. Low-key think this could have been a good Telltale game. Again, I feel like this game should be up my alley, but it isn't. It was gonna be like Life is Strange. Yeah, it's like... I really think that the underlying problem with this game is the terrible execution. Like, there's just so many things that, like... It really depends on what they felt like they wanted to talk about, but... Again, if the heart of their message was, as I was saying, like, beliefs that are passed down to people and that manifests in how you interact with the world, if the message was very simple and it was talking about that, I think they completely missed the mark. I thought this stream was very interesting and the game was very funny. Nice. We did it. Dan. Come on. Stretch. Alright. So I think we will be back on Saturday to continue Fire Emblem, the longest playthrough known to mankind. And I'm gonna see if I have enough energy to continue writing. That's what I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can do that. So hey, if you're still here, I'm gonna say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your support as always, and I will see you all next time. Bye. Take care. Bye.